So we just previewed Munger, and this is in Old East Dallas, and this plays a soft spot in my heart because my wife and I lived right around the corner from here, and I'm just amazed at all of the growth, right? So we had lunch at Loro. It was incredible, great food. And before there was just E-Bar, right? So there wasn't really many choices here, but everything keeps sprouting up. And you actually helped this couple. They're friends of yours, and you helped them during Snowmageddon, right? In February. So walk us through the transaction.
Sure. So they had started looking. These are friends of mine from college, and they had started looking about December, and it was more of a classic search. They were looking from everything from single-family houses in Lakewood, Lake Highlands, to Dallas proper, Old East Dallas, Lower Greenville, townhomes, condos, and they ended up settling on wanting something like this. So one thing that I know me and you've talked about a lot already is just this crazy growth that we've seen, and this is a product of that growth. So this is a four unit complex here on Munger, and this is one of the units. I think we were the second folks under contract. It was still being built when we got under contract. And this one was more so about speed when we got it. So it hit the market. It checked all the boxes. It is something that really would sell for significantly more. I mean, we were under contract in January, and it's November now. It would probably sell for about $100,000 more than we got it for in 10 months. But it was really about speed. I mean, literally before I could put my car in drive, after we saw it, I called the listing agent. We negotiated for about 24 hours, and we were under contract. It got real interesting because when you're buying a place that is still being built, there's a gray line between what is to be negotiated and what the builder is still supposed to finish as part of the build. And so we ran into some problems there. There was just little things, trim, the vent hood in the kitchen, lights on the stairwell, stuff that is code items. Well, you don't get an inspection usually when it's the middle of the build. They get inspection at the end. So we had a few bumps along the way trying to make sure those things got taken care of. And then, as you alluded to, Snowmageddon hit, the Texas tundra. And not only did it hit, but it hit about 24 to 48 hours after we were supposed to close. And the issue was there's a rooftop, which we will show. Well, there was water that was pooling on the rooftop. Well, when temperatures are at zero, that water freezes. And one of the negotiated repairs was that we were going to have them fix the drainage up on the rooftop so that people could stand and walk around the rooftop. And you can't do that when it's an ice rink. So we had to, this is actually the only time that I've seen this, we had to escrow part of the purchasing funds, hold it in escrow to not be sent to the seller. So we did close on it, but we held back a portion of the funds saying, if you don't fix this item, you don't get this money. And we worked that out with the title company, which was great, but it was the last thing before we closed. And then even after we closed, there was a big leak actually just behind us here in this window. There's a big water leak, and they replaced this section of flooring about 3 times as they fixed the leak. So.
Oh my gosh, and you're taking me back because I remember Snowmageddon, and I had multiple transactions during that period, and pre-snow, everything was fine, right? So we had our appraisals, and we were moving through the process, and then all of a sudden you have Snowmageddon, and now because of all the water damage, because Texas literally was without power for anywhere between, it could have been 1 day, but it could have been 5 days, depending on who, where you lived and what the proximity was to a hospital, wherever had the emergency grid. Personally, our place, we were, without power for 4 days. And any of those places, a lot of them, they actually had water damage. So we had to send the appraisers back out to do another inspection, to actually go back to make sure that the home was fine. And I remember we were about to close, and I told the buyer, I said, you want to have, A, we require it, but B, you want to know, right? Because you're buying an existing home, and if they had water damage, you don't want to just say that, it'll be fine and we'll figure it out. No, you're not the owner yet, right? It's on the owner at that point. It's on the seller to repair anything because you're buying it based on the inspection, based on the appraisal. But FEMA actually requires the lenders to go back out there, or the lenders require, based off of the emergency, to go back out there and do the reinspection and all of that. So there are acts of God that can delay a transaction. It's not just the parties involved. There's a higher power that's involved as well. You have no control over, right?
Yeah.
You just got to roll with it.
Yeah, you do. And I think that those sort of stories and this sort of a story is just reflective of why it's important to have to work with partners who are responsive and have attention to detail. Because if you're not looking at whether it's a natural disaster or whether it's a new build item, if you're not looking at little things like the water damage or the trim or lights on the stairs or things, all these little boxes that need to be checked and things that are supposed to be done, whether it's code or whether it's just stuff that should be done so that you as a client can get into a quality place, that's just going to go. I mean, you're not going to, the last line of defense is the folks that you're working with. And so I know, I pride myself on it. I know you pride yourself on it. But attention to detail and making sure we're doing every little last thing to finish a transaction right.